Oh my goodness, hello everyone, and welcome. I'm using the actual microphone this time instead of just mouthing wordlessly at you. Hi everybody, and welcome to another Sewers of Paris chat. So lovely to see you all. Look at how everybody piles in here just as we're getting started. What a delight. Libby's Journal is back. I Do Not Care says, ooh. Fish Jack Harton says, hi. Pika23. I'm reading everything backwards. That's why people are responding to things that haven't happened yet. Hello. Dylan is here. Pika wants to talk about RuPaul's Drag Race and Paris is Burning. Yes. We will definitely be talking about that. Flower Punk says, oh, you like my my D&D stuff. Hooray. I'm glad. Oh my goodness. Chat is scrolling so fast. Pika, Thanksgiving parade videos? I definitely want to hear that story. Female impersonators of celebrities in Atlantic City. We know about Drag Race. Didn't know till Drag Race that they did other stuff. Macy's Thanksgiving Parade videos. I found a website of friends I talked to now for 13 years. Is your common thing Thanksgiving Parade videos? That is delightful. Daniel Harper cites Steampipe Alley. I'm not familiar with that. What is Steampipe Alley? It sounds like a dirty euphemism. I'm sorry if that ruins something. Emily Charette says, hello. I didn't get in Connecticut, but it looks hilarious on Wikipedia. Yeah, I didn't get in Connecticut either. Because John says, I've eaten my weight in vanilla wafer cookies over the last 2 weeks. Was that what I was eating? I was eating that last time. Well, get ready for the next culinary sensation. These things. So I got these at the QFC, which is the Quality Food Center, I think it stands for. But we call it Queer Fucking Central because it's in Capitol Hill where all the gays go. Anyway, I got these cookies thinking they were Belgian. They were stroopwafels, but they are not. I was like, oh, that's weird. What are they? And we were munching them. And James was like, oh, it's just an ice cream cone. So they're just like cookie versions of ice cream cones. So that's what I'm eating today. Yeah, have some more vanilla wafers because those are pretty good too. Greetings from Ohio, says Matthew Park. Pika likes Mario Cantone. Wait, what was Mario Cantone? Was he in Steampipe Alley? What is that? Richard Ian Tracy says, toot toot. Hello, beep beep, Mr. Bunny is here. Which one of us is Mr. Bunny? We can all be Mr. Bunny. Crimson Sage is here. Nicholas Crass is here. Hello. Tomer, hello. Good to see you. Good afternoon to Matthew Park. Shanisa Pekov says hello. Hey from Oregon says Nudnik Jeff, and Karen Flieger says, hey. Casey Corrupted says, I love your content. Thank you for making it. Well, thank you for watching. I'm glad you like it. Lorenz says, finally, those things. Yes, those things. It even said, like, Belgian cookie or something like that on the packaging, and it's like, oh, well, that's probably just an American way of saying stroopwafels. But it's not. Richard says, I am Mr. Bunny. Well, okay, so what can I can be Ms. Bunny. It's like Ms. Pac-Man. I can only be here for a little while, says Matthew Park. I need to get myself ready to see Kathy Griffin. Oh, my goodness. She replied to you. She's going to be expecting you. She said, you have plans on Twitter. Yeah, so anyway, so Matthew Park tweeted that he couldn't stay for long for the live stream, that he's going to see Kathy Griffin. And Kathy Griffin was like, that's right, come to my show. So hooray for that. Did you see that Dean Cain has got into a bit of a Twitter fight with Mia Koopa? Ugh. I'm working on that site that I told you about. Wonderful, Laura. I'm glad to hear that. That's very exciting. No spoilers about Laura's secret project, but it's going to be really good. I mean, you can tell people about it if you want, or you don't have to. Son of a Pizza Man is here. Hello. I hope you brought pizza for everybody. And 255 AD says, what happened to 255 AD? What would have been happening around that time? Well, a lot of people in huts, I guess. Are you aware of Rantasmo? Of course, Need More Gay. Of course, I'm very aware. Rantasmo and I did a collaboration a while back about, what was it about? It was Nightmare on Elm Street 2. He did a video about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and I did a video on Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and it was a whole Halloween thing. So yeah, Rantasmo's Need More Gay series is a delight, a feast for your senses. Oh, I've got a tea. I've got tea coming in. It's massive. It's the size of my head. It's not really. Hello, thank you, James. James got me a nice little tea. Hi from France, says Mara Kadiri. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Eric says, Matt, I've watched a bunch of your videos. I don't know how you managed to be right. Oh, every time, but you're correct in every one of your videos. You just be one of them geniuses. Okay, so here's the secret behind the scenes. I just say the words. No, that's not true. I write them, but I write them not by myself, with James. James gives me a lot of help with those videos. I'll often read my script to him, and he'll be like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Or he'll say like, oh, that's a good point, but you should also mention this. The Simpsons one in particular was going to be completely different. If you watch my Simpsons video about John Waters, I had a whole script about like the nature of camp and what camp is. And I read it, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh, does this land? And James was like, this doesn't land. So I definitely want to talk about that, but I don't think the John Waters episode is the right one to do it with. So anyway, that script got totally redone thanks to James's feedback. So we really collaborate on those and do them together. I'm glad that I give the illusion of being a genius, but it's all smoke and mirrors. I don't know if you guys noticed on the video, the weekly debrief that I put up last week from Palm Springs, I did the whole thing in one take, which I don't normally do. There's usually cuts because I'll memorize a paragraph at a time and then read it to the camera, and then memorize a paragraph and then read it to the camera. I can't memorize the whole thing, but I just got a teleprompter thing for my phone, so I can actually talk directly to the camera while reading. So let me know if you like that look better or worse. So I did that on the Palm Springs video from 2 weeks ago where I'm by a pool, and there's like soothing water sounds throughout. Anyway, hello. I'll never forget seeing Dean Cain make out with Andrew Keegan in the Broken Hearts Club. Yeah, so I have not seen that film. Should I see that film? It looks a bit... No, I was going to say weepy. Not that weepy is a bad thing. I mean, we can have sad stories, but like, I don't know. It looked a little serious for me. And I like to laugh. I'm like Uncle Arthur. Wait, Uncle Arthur? Oh, okay. For a second in my brain, I was like, no, his name is Aardvark, not Arthur. But that's not true. That's Arthur the Aardvark from TV's Arthur. Anyway. Broken Hearts Club. Have not seen it. Should I? Pushkin says, Jim Parsons is planning a network gay-themed series. Okay. I mean, I'm open to that. I don't dislike Jim Parsons. I can't say I've ever enjoyed, what's the name of his show? The Lonely Nerds Club? Big Bang Theory, that's it. I can't say I've ever liked Big Bang Theory, but that's not his fault. He's just an actor. Son of a Pizza Man Broad, pepperoni, and sausage. I will have sausage, please. I've never gotten the love for pepperoni. It's too salty to me. Libby's Journal is doing a ton of research. It's incredibly hard and painful to get through. What are you researching? Oh, and Amara says my pronunciation is on point. Thank you. Erin says, love your videos. Look at all those hearts. I love all the hearts. Brianna says, are your alternate scripts that weren't edited on your page? Oh, that's an interesting idea. I don't think I want to put them online, frankly. I've only had a few that I've just, killed, that I've been like, this just isn't working. And the reason I kill them is because I'm like, oh, I'm trying to make a point here, but actually I'm wrong. So I don't want to put up a script that I'm like, oh, I thought I was right about this, but as I write through it, no, I don't believe this. So I don't think I'd want to put those up. I could put up alternate version. Often James will make little tweaks like, oh, make sure, if I'm talking about, the 80s, he'll be like, oh, make sure you mention, this thing about the epidemic. Or if I'm writing about Mary Tyler Moore, he'll be like, oh, you could relate it back to that joke from the Dick Van Dyke Show. So I don't think they're honestly interesting enough to put online, but I'd be up for it. Eric says, you do a great job. Thank you. And I don't know, Kara sends more hearts. Your voice is always so amazing and you're so articulate. Thank you. That also is smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of takes in some of my videos. I put up a video on Twitter a few weeks ago. It was an outtake from a video I did a while back where I was like, it was one of my Newsier videos. And I'm like, I finished doing the news and I'm like, that's the news from around the United States. We'll be back next week. I guess. I'm not sure. I don't know. Because I couldn't remember what I was talking about. I was thinking about something else and I don't even know what. But so often I'll just be trailing off like I just did in the middle of a sentence. Anyway, let's see. Yay to the prompter, says Terry. Okay. Pika says, who's going to who's going to DragCon in 2 weeks? Pika's going. It's on the other side of the country from me, so I'm probably not going to be there. It's just a big schlep to get to New York for something like that when we've got DragCon in LA on this side of the country. But what are you looking forward to? Who are you looking forward to seeing, Pika? I'm hopefully going to be interviewing James Mansfield from the latest season of Drag Race, right? The latest season? I think so. Or wait, was it the season before? Anyway, I think it was the season before now that I think of it. Libby's Journal says, any tips for working with a teleprompter app? I mean, the important thing is to find a speed that works. It's so fiddly and it's so precise. It's so easy to be like, oh yes, this is the right speed. And it's just slightly too fast or too slow. And suddenly you're racing to get ahead of yourself or forgetting the words scroll off the screen before you can get to them. Pushkin says, Dean Cain's too conservative for my money. Yeah, me too. Matthew Park says, are you familiar with Lindsay Ellis? Yes, I love Lindsay Ellis. I'd love to collaborate with Lindsay Ellis. I think she's great. Big fan of her stuff. She is British, if I'm recalling correctly. I hope I'm not thinking of somebody else. Yeah, Lindsay Ellis, British. No, I'm thinking of Rowan. Or is Rowan Lindsay? Because I think Rowan's last name is Ellis as well. Oh, boy. Anyway, Lindsay Ellis. Now I have to look her up because I may be thinking about the wrong person. I'll tell you who else is great. Not queer that I know of, but Sophie Hagen. I recently started listening to her podcast, Made of People, and it's just such a pleasure. Oh, no, Lindsay Ellis. Who is this? I don't know her. I was thinking of Rowan, who's a British woman who does a lot of YouTubes. Yeah. Oh, Nostalgia Chick. Oh, yes. Okay, yes, I'm familiar. Like, the picture that I saw of her was like, who is that? But yes, no, she's fantastic. Yeah, I love her stuff. She did a video with Mara Wilson that's a real delight. Yes. Have you heard about the LGBT representation in the IDW Transformers comics? No, I haven't. In Transformers. 255 says, I'm convinced Angela Lansbury just blinked. Oh, it's possible. Yeah, that makes her even more mysterious. She's fixed her eyes on you. Her eyes are following me. She's a menacing figure, that Angela. Lonely Hearts Club is available on YouTube if you want. It's next to my list of queer indies to watch, says Tomer. Oh, that actually raises a question, and you guys think about this, and we're going to come back to it. Is there a bad, you know how like there's a lot of love sometimes for bad gay movies, like campy bad, like, oh, it's so bad it's good? Are there bad gay movies that you would like to see me talk about? I've been talking to another queer journalist about doing a little chat about bad gay movies. The thing is, they have to be so bad it's good, not just so bad I hate it. Which is the challenge, because there are a lot of bad movies that's like, this is just bad and I don't like it. But it has to be like Xanadu, where you're like, oh my god, this is so bad, it's amazing. Ben and Arthur, obviously, is the one that everybody goes to, but I feel like everyone said everything that needs to be said about that movie. We were talking about this film At Long Last Love, which is not explicitly queer. It's just a musical with Madeline Kahn, which is pretty queer. And Eileen Brennan. So, I mean, that's pretty queer-ish. But anyway, but nobody's ever heard of this movie and nobody wants to see it. It's not bad enough to be good anyway. So, what are some movies that are so bad it's good? Jim Parsons is fantastic as Tommy Boatwright in the HBO version of The Normal Heart. Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that either. That's another one that, like, very important, weepy in a good way, but I just need to be ready for it. Like, I just don't need to be sad for, like, weeks and weeks and weeks, which I know is what it's going to do to me. Like, we just watched Infinity War, and no spoilers, but I was, like, really stressed out and bummed after that film. And James felt bad. He was like, I thought we were going to watch something fun. I thought we were going to see a fun comic book romp. And I mean, I know it's just a movie and like the bad things that happen aren't real and there's another movie coming. But still, distressing. I think the thing about it, I guess, spoiler alert for Infinity War. The thing about it that upset me is that I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. Bad things were happening and people had no control. There was literally nothing anyone could do about the bad things that were happening at the very end. Like, it wasn't like, okay, we've got a plan. Okay, we're going to fix this. It was just like, this is the end. And I guess that sort of nihilism really upsetted me. Let's see. Matthew Park says, Timothy Oliphant on the Broken Hearts Club. He actually makes out with Andrew Keegan. Oh, and John Mahoney's in that. That's right. Pushkin says you should come to Pride in New York City for the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. That is going to be bonkers. Oh my god, the 50th anniversary. I think that coincides with World Pride. I think World Pride is happening in New York next year. That is going to be insane, but you're right. I should start making plans for Pride in June, even though it's like 7 months more, like 8 or 9 months away. I should start making plans for that cuz it's coming. It's going to be huge. 50th anniversary of Stonewall. Can you believe it? Yes, Rowan Ellis is who I was thinking of. Flower Punk. Emily says, did you see something on the New York Fashion Show? I mean, I saw that it was happening, but I don't know what happened. Oh, Matthew says Lindsay Ellis is not Nostalgia Chick anymore. She's moving away from that. Oh, okay. So she's Lindsay. I mean, honestly, I get a little, like, wiggly about, like, chick, and like if somebody wants to use that term to describe themselves, totally fine, but I know it can be used dismissively on people, so I'm happy not to be using that word. Oh, Charles says check with Rantasmo. Of course, of course. He's in a lot of bad queer cinema. Yes. Oh, and Debs. Oh my god, I forgot about that. Debs, lesbian spy drama. Yeah, Brianna, that's a great one. Oh yeah, Mr. T-Bone SF at Long Last Love stars Burt Reynolds. Rest in peace. I mean, his mustache is really the star of that show. Yeah, it's such a great title, At Long Last Love. It's a Cole Porter. I mean, it sounds great. Cole Porter jukebox musical with Eileen Brennan, Burt Reynolds, Madeline Kahn, Sybil Shepherd, and a bunch of other people who have maybe diminished a bit since the 1970s. But, I mean, it sounds great. By Peter Bogdanovich, who did What's Up, Doc and Paper Moon and all those, and Mask. So it should be good. Really not good. Really just not good. We're also talking about, oh no, what's the name of it? Myra Breckenridge. That one has some troubling, problematic bits when it comes to gender and the binary. So I think it may be too troubling, not troubling, too problematic to talk about in a fun setting. But anyway, I don't know, maybe. Oh, Rocky Horror. I might want to save that for October. Rocky Horror is a good idea, John Newman. I've got a Rocky Horror video coming out in October, so keep your eyes out for that. Oh my god, October's really soon. I just realized. October's really soon. Oh no, that would be next month, wouldn't it? Help! Pushkin says, John Hamm's interested in being the new Batman. Honestly, I'm done with, like, conventionally attractive men being superheroes. Like, you know, I want someone interesting to be interesting looking. Not that conventionally attractive people can't be interesting. But I want somebody who, like, I want Peter Lorre as Superman. But it's just, like, all the same underwear wearing spandex man with a chiseled jaw. And I'm like, I can't even tell these guys apart. Oh, Saturday Night at the Baths, says New Nick Jeff. Wait, that's different from the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the one... Hold on. Saturday Night at the Baths. Maybe I am thinking of the same one with... No, what is this? What is the one that I'm thinking of that has... I'm definitely wrong about this. It's not Rita Rudner. It's... Oh boy, there's going to be a bunch of jumps here. What's her name? The woman who crashes the cymbals on Animal. James just laughed at me. James, she won an Emmy for crashing cymbals on Animal on The Muppet Show. She sings Fever on The Muppet Show. She's in a movie where she's in a bathhouse and she sings a song from Man of La Mancha. Rita Moreno. There's a movie with Rita Moreno in a bathhouse that I can't remember. Anyway, But I'm a Cheerleader is hilarious. I don't know that But I'm a Cheerleader ages totally well. I think it's good, but I think there are bits of it that you're like, oh, this isn't as funny as I remember. Transformers comics are a bit of an undertaking. Oh no, it's scrolling too fast. Help! Organized Mess has to go. Have a good stream. Goodbye. Transformers comics are a bit of an undertaking. It's been running for 6 years. Really, so good. Very queer right from the launch. Just gets better. Really, I didn't know that. Oh gosh. Okay, hold on. Where's my notebook? Transformers comics. Who knew? I'm writing all your recommendations down, of course. Transformers. There really is more than meets the eye. Comic. The robots in disguise, but I didn't know the disguise was drag. Charles says, Naked Boys singing. That's another one that, like, it's fun to look at. I don't know that the quality is great. Like, not that Naked Boys, they're no slouches, of course, but once you get past the gimmick of, like, oh, they're naked and they're singing, yeah, it's fine. It's just fine. Like, if the Naked Boys that I look on Tumblr started singing, I'd be like, oh, that's not what I came to Naked Boys for. So I feel like that might be, like, instead of chocolate and peanut butter, which go well together, that might be like chocolate and pickles. Like, they're good on their own, but together it's like, Newt Jeff likes Gregoraki. Lauren says, do they count as bad movies or are they just good? They occupy a middle zone, or maybe like a third dimension, where they are successful. I would say Gregoraki films are successful. I think everything that's on the screen is what he wanted to have on the screen. But I wouldn't call them bad, but I would say that there are a lot of people who would not enjoy them, is how I would put that. Terry says Sybil was great. Yes. Oh, Sybil. I'm a cheerleader, campy and yet genuine. Yeah, genuine is I think a good word to describe it. I'm a cheerleader. New Nick Jeff does not like Myra Breckenridge. Oh, John Matthews says the new version of Rocky Horror. Directed by Kenny Ortega. Yeah, a real letdown, I'm afraid. With Laverne Cox, I think, as Frankenfurter. Like, I had high hopes for that, but it's just so tepid. Oh, Organized Mess has someone else in the room. Oh, well, don't let me keep you. Laura says, I just saw a copy of the original stage soundtrack to a Rocky Horror. How different is that? When Glee did Rocky Horror, they did a great job. I mean, I think it's better than most Glee, but still, like, I don't think anything can top the 75 film? 75? Around then. Steam Room. Wait, is Steam Room the movie that I'm thinking of? Oh, I googled Steam Room and it's just showing me Steam Rooms, of course. Steam Bath. No, this is not it. What? Okay, this is a totally different movie. Steam Bath, 1973. Tandy Meredith and assorted others unexpectedly wake up in a steam bath with no easy exit. After spending some time there, it becomes clear that the steam bath is a sort of afterlife where indifferent souls come to tell their stories to God, who happens to be the attendant picking up the towels. This sounds extremely pretentious. Not what I was thinking of. If you want to know more about the IDW Transformers, look up Lindsay Ellis' episode of The Whole Plate called Queering Transformers. She talks about it for the last couple of minutes. Ah, that is good to know. I'm writing that down. Lindsay Ellis Transformers thing. Yes, Peter Lorre's Kal-El. Yes, that is exactly what I want. But Rita Moreno. Rita Moreno, thank you. The actress in the corner of the webcast. The actress. I mean, yes, she is, but I mean, call her by name. Yes, it's the lady from Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Are you worried the Supreme Court might do away with nationwide marriage, equal marriage? Now the arch-conservative justices are the majority. Well, we're not quite there yet, but I don't think it's likely, but it is possible. We know that it's something that is a goal of a lot of conservative organizations, so they're not going to let it drop. It could happen. I don't think it's going to, but it could. Oh, the Ritz! John Matthews. Thank you. The Ritz. Charles D. recommends One Day at a Time on Netflix. It's a remake with a queer immigrant storyline. What? Really? One Day at a Time, Netflix. I want to know more about Saturday Night at the Baths. Who recommended that to me? Oh, this does look exciting. This is Saturday Night at the Baths. A musician from Montana finds work in other things at the Continental Baths in New York City in 1974. I have to look this up. Look at this. Okay, Saturday Night at the Baths for sure. One Day at a Time. Reimagining of the... Oh, yeah, I remember the original series. Yeah. Okay, I'd give this a shot. Sure. And Rita Moreno's on it? That's great. Who's on this? I don't know most of these. Oh, Stephen Tobolowsky, the delightful Stephen Tobolowsky. The film you think, yes, The Ritz with Rita Moreno. Did you read United States by Gore Vidal? Very long but very good, says Emily. I have not read it. I'll put that on my list as well. Wait, what are we putting on there? One Day at a Time and The Ritz and that's just, I recommended that. And United States by Gore Vidal. Sell me on United States by Gore Vidal, because it sounds like a lot of work. So why should I read it? Are you going to see the Mary Poppins Returns when it's released this Christmas? I mean, probably. I like Mary Poppins, and I like... I don't like dark, gritty reboots. This doesn't look totally dark and gritty. So, you know, I'm not totally like, absolutely not, I hate this. In the same way that I would be with, like, I don't know, that dark and gritty reboot of Winnie the Pooh looked like really bad. And of course I like Lin-Manuel Miranda. So, that's promising. I was the projection. Whoa, Nunick Jeff says I was a projectionist for Rocky Horror for more than 10 years. Picked up lots of boys. Oh my goodness. Did you take him back up to the projection room? Oh my goodness. Yeah, Pushkin says Rocky Horror without the 70s vibe is going to be a hard sell. Oh, I think that's part of it. Yeah. Not like put it in the 70s and it's a guaranteed smash hit, but I don't know. I think you could do a modern Rocky Horror. I think you could do like weird Rocky Horrors. Like you could do Rocky Horror in space. You could do Rocky Horror like in a fantasy land. I don't think it has to be the 70s. I think the setting could float around. I think the thing is, for Rocky Horror to be successful, is it has to be shocking. And what's shocking, as Cole Porter said, in olden days, a glimpse of stalking was looked on as something shocking. He was writing specifically about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Latin Sophia Loren. Wait, what? Who? Do you mean Sofia Vergara? It's concerning, but highly unlikely. Oh, yes, it's Libby. The Supreme Court will overturn. You need to, yes, it's only, well, I mean, yes, prohibition was certainly a reversal. The Supreme Court changes its mind on things all the time. Like, that's how we had the decriminalization of homosexualities. They ruled in the 80s, in 84, in Bowers v. Hardwick, that it was totally fine for states to criminalize homosexuality. And then it was only in 2004 in Lawrence that they were like, whoops, no, I think the line that Kennedy, I believe it was Kennedy wrote, was Bowers was wrong when it was decided, and it is wrong today. So yeah, the Supreme Court can change its mind. Boy, oh boy, it sure would take a lot of changing for them to be like, and no more marriage. But it could happen. Oh, okay, John Matthews, Sabrina Dark and Gritty reboot. Okay, yes, you're right. Now, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. We haven't seen the new Sabrina. But yeah, it looks pretty good. It looks like, but here's the thing. I don't think it actually is dark and gritty. I think it's, well, who knows? I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be like Riverdale. Oh, Riverdale, that's another one. It's not quite dark and gritty. It's atmospheric and mysterious. But I guess I need to be more specific about what I mean when I say dark and gritty. I don't mean just like, ooh, it's sinister like the X-Files. Because that, great. I'm up for that. I mean, by dark and gritty, I mean like we're not allowed to smile and we're not allowed to have fun. Because that's certainly how I feel about like dark and gritty Superman. Nope. Batman, like the Christopher Nolan Batmans, I just don't like because I'm like, I miss the Adam West stuff. I miss the Batusi. I miss shark repellent. So the new Batmans, I'm like, oh, why can't we just have fun? Riverdale and Sabrina, I'm like, okay, this seems like a good time. As a fan of 70s 80s TV, you'll appreciate One Day at a Time, throwback to old-fashioned sitcoms with emotional and socio-political edge. One Day at a Time. I'm going to look that up right. Oh, it was just literally what I was just looking up a second ago. Yeah. With Rita Moreno. Kavanaugh may not get confirmed, says Matthew Park. Yes, hopefully. Nicholas Crass recommends Mateo Lane, a gay comedian who's one of the comedians featured in Netflix's The Comedy Lineup. Yeah, Mateo Lane, he's familiar to me. Why do I know that name? Oh, you know what? I think I just follow him on Twitter. Let's take a look at him. Mateo Lane. Let's see the so-called Mateo Lane. Mateo Lane. Oh, yeah, there he is with the mustache. Yeah, he's great. I am following him. He seems very good. And he has some very sexy pictures. Yes, very nice. The Amok Time episode. Amok? Amok? I don't know how to pronounce it. Spock and Kirk roll around in the sand. Came out this day 51 years ago. Wow. And that's what predated Stonewall. Oh. So these cookies that are really just... Oh, here we go. It's the Hallelujah Chorus. It's perfectly timed. I don't know. The music is very quiet, so I don't know if you can hear it. I'll turn it up just a tiny bit. There it goes. Perfectly timed because I've been eating these cookies that are really just ice cream cones pressed flat. I just discovered because it accidentally got into my tea bag that's on the plate right here, that these actually taste very good with some Earl Grey. Num, num, num. So yeah, have some, you know, is that a thing? Earl Grey ice cream? That must be a thing. Earl Grey cold is what I'd call that. Yep, Earl Grey ice cream. It auto-completes. Oh, it's a recipe. Okay. Yeah, this looks... Oh, it calls for a cup of honey blossom. I don't even know what that means. I'd be up for Earl Grey ice cream with a delicious ice cream cone. That works really nicely. Loren said, if not Kavanaugh, then someone else. Slim chance the seat will sit empty for 2 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that happened? I mean, it could. It could. I mean, the way things are going, it could. Matthew says of Mateo Lane, he is muy caliente. Charo once said to me that her new album was going to be picante. No, her live show was going to be picante. I was interviewing her for an internet website, and on the telephone, she said, what did she say exactly? It was something like, it's going to be hot. It's going to be picante, P-I-C-A-N-T-E. It's going to make you wow. Nom nom. I just nom drinking tea. Tea does not need an nom. Oh yes, Tomer says on the topic of Greg Rocky, directed some Riverdale. Yes, the wrestling episode. Ugh. All I know, I'm not there yet in watching the show. All I know is that there's wrestlers. If you enter George Takei's contest for donations against gun violence, you can win a double date with him and his husband. What? Oh my goodness. That does sound very fun. We could talk about transit and Star Trek, I guess, but transit, because as I'm sure you're all aware, George Takei was on the, Los Angeles Transportation Commission or something like that. He cast a tie-breaking vote to make the LA City subway possible. So anyway, that's what I know George Takei from. Zetafi708 says, I grew up in the 70s, so I had major crushes on Butch Patrick from Lidsville, a Sid and Marty Krofft show, I think, and Ike Eisenman from, Escape and Return to Witch Mountain. Yes. 70s shows and 70s Disney movies had lots of eye candy. Yes, for, like, when you're a young gay, and I mean, like, very young, like, you know, preteen, yeah, there were, I remember the same thing, the boy from Return to Witch Mountain. Before I knew what, like, gay was or what attraction was or the nature of desire, I just knew that the boy from Witch Mountain was very interesting to me. And I was like, I wish I was his friend. What did he grow up to be? Oh my god. This music. Eisenman. Yep. Oh, okay. He's got a very 70s look, doesn't he? Yeah, not exactly my type, but these days. But as a youngster, I definitely wanted to be friends with him. And now, who's the other one? Butch Patrick, eh? I don't know who that is. Butch Patrick. Oh, he was also Eddie Munster? Huh. Oh, there he is. There he is. I've seen a recipe for chai ice cream, says Charles. Okay. Well, make it so. Are you excited? Matthew Park says, are you excited for Sir Patrick Stewart's return as Picard in the future? I am excited. Nervous and scared, and I hope it's real good. But what I really want is Patrick Stewart as a teacher at Starfleet Academy who is just very wise and has, I don't know, nice things to say to... the focus is on the cadets. The focus is on the youngsters at Starfleet Academy. And Captain Picard is just there every now and then to offer words of wisdom. Oh, man, and I really want Whoopi Goldberg to come back. And I just want more episodes of Next Generation. That's all I want. Did you catch the Adventure Time finale? They had two maybe queer central characters finally kiss. I saw that everybody was talking about it. But so, I've only ever seen, of Adventure Time, I've only ever seen the pilot that they did, like, 15 years ago. That was totally different. Like, different voices, different style, different everything. So I saw, like, the 5-minute first Adventure Time. And I haven't seen any of the show since then. They're deafs queer, says Ludigraves. Yes. At this point, I think we can say that confidently. But I did see that everybody was excited about that finale. Batman Secret. Oh, well, Pushkin. When the GOP thought Clinton was going to win, multiple GOP senators said, "There's no law that says we have to have 9 justices. We can leave the seat unfilled for 2 years." Oh, that's right. They did say that. Well, let's show them. Jamie says, "I always wish Jonathan Taylor Thomas was my friend when I was 13. Oh, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He's does he still act? Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Oh yeah, there he is. What's he doing? Oh, he's slightly younger than me. Gosh, that makes me feel old. Last Man Standing, through the movie. Yeah, oh no, he really does not work much at all. Or at least, doesn't work much. He doesn't do a lot of TV and film. Wonder what he's up to. Oh, here's a picture of him wearing glasses. It's very cute. It says, keep reading, and what he's been up to may surprise you, but it doesn't have any more information. Keep reading for the goods. Some of it may surprise you. I bet it won't. I have to unravel 2 episodes of Smallville, blah, blah, blah. 8 simple rules, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's just taking a break from Hollywood. That's all. Yeah, it may surprise you. He's taking a break. Shocker. Thoughts on queer anarchism, radical anti-capitalist LGBT groups, and Emma Goldman. Yeah, be gay, do crimes. Any advice for writing scripts faster than 3.5 days? Not really. If you want it to be good, it needs time, is the thing. It frustrates me too, because I'm like, I want to sit down and just be like, bang, done. All my writing is done. But it takes a lot of time to write a good script. Oh my god, this music is really frantic. Tell me if I need to make any audio adjustments, you guys. I'm just turning the music down a little bit because that was way too much. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So what I do with my scripts is I usually have a little outline. I mean, this is not rocket science. I have an outline, and up at the top I've got, like, what do I want? What is the takeaway? What do I want people to come away from this video having learned? And also, what's the hook? And usually that's also the headline. Like, what's the thing that's exciting about this? What's the thing that if somebody just sees the headline, they'll be like, oh, now that I gotta see. So that helps me focus the writing of it. So I'm not just like meandering everywhere. Terry Weaver says, I just want a happy ending for Picard. Don't we all? Nicholas says, I'm annoyed that the new Picard series will be behind the CBS All Access paywall. I know. No, that CBS All Matlock thing is the worst. We tried to watch the pilot, and it was so buggy, like, it just kept, like, freezing and skipping. Like, it kept doing this thing, James, do you remember? Like, there was an exciting part, and it would freeze, and then jump ahead 45 seconds. And we were like, oh, weird, there must be some playback glitch. So we rewound to make it do it again, and just kept doing it every single time, but always at a slightly different part. So, I don't know. And plus all the ads, and the ads are super loud for some reason. Like the show's one volume and the ads are another volume. Anyway, CBS All Access, the worst. So if you can find some way to pirate, I don't think you have to feel guilty about it. Oh yeah, Max Bader says Patrick Stewart as a teacher at Starfleet Academy sounds similar to his role in the X-Men movies. Of course. Yeah, you're right. When he played Captain Picard for the X-Men. Oh, Terry wants the original Barkley back. Me too. Oh, I want a Barkley series. They were Barkley novels, I think. Matthew Bark says, my first crushes were Ralph Macchio and William Zabka. Who is William Zabka? He sounds like, I don't know. He sounds like I don't know what this means. He sounds like a Roald Dahl character. William Zabka. Oh. Okay. I mean, again, not exact. Oh, I see what he was. Billy Zabka. In the 80s, in the olden days. Yeah. Oh, is he the bad kid from Karate Kid? Oh, he's the bad boy from Karate Kid. Okay, yeah. It's just, you know, Emily says, would you mind plugging Skipping Stone Foundation for transgender kids? Not at all. Let's check it out. Skipping Stone Foundation. Supporting and empowering transgender and gender diverse youth and their families by providing low barrier access to services and support. Well, that sounds great. Skipping Stone Foundation, empowering transgender youth starts with you. These sound like lovely folks. Looks like this is Canadian. Yeah, so Canadian organization for trans folks, allies, and gender non-binary. That seems great. GuideStar. Let's just check them out on GuideStar, which is the thing that rates nonprofits. Skipping Stone Foundation. So, I don't know. This is, I guess, a tip. Like, when I'm looking up a nonprofit to be like, are they actually good? Generally, I look them up on guidestar.org. Oh, but they're based in Bellingham. Interesting. Is this the same organization? And often GuideStar will have information about, like, whether it's an actual good organization. And it looks like GuideStar doesn't have any information on them, so it's not actually helpful. But just based on their abouts and the media that they have, like news articles that have been posted about their work, seems like they're good folks. Yeah, Ludogrape says writing hard. Well, speaking of writing hard, we're going to have a writer and editor on in about 15 minutes. The delightful Bryan Lowder is going to be joining us. He's the editor of Outward at Slate. I just noticed that my hair is doing something very strange, so let's see if we can fix that. Thanks, everybody, for letting me know that my hair is sticking straight up. Yeah, so we're going to have Bryan Lowder from Slate joining us in a little bit to talk about a lot of things. Bryan, he sent me a list of... He sent me a list of things that he's been consuming lately, and it's long. The new American Horror Story is good. Castle Rock could be something else along those lines. I've been teaching Tristan, which is his partner, about Stargate, and I have lots of thoughts about those. Interesting. Stargate. Not what I would have expected. Book-wise, The Parting Gift, Marching Band, just Marching Band in general. The Drum Corps International Finals just happened in August, and I've been thinking a lot about the queerness of that art form. So we're going to have Bryan talk about all kinds of things in about 15 minutes. Yeah, be gay, do crimes. Love it. Thank you. Luda says, I want Data back, but without that shitty emotion chip. And Terry says, Spiner won't do it. Well, here's the problem is that Brett Spiner is old. Data's not Data anymore. He's not some 35-year-old yellow Adonis as he once was. So it's weird if they bring Brent Spiner back to be Data. And they're like, oh, by the way, Data got kind of it's old and wrinkly. Turns out robots don't last as long as we thought. Max says, what upcoming movie or TV show are you most excited about? What a great question. I am interested in Sabrina. I'm curious to see what exactly they do with that. Of course, I'm excited for whatever's going to happen with Steven Universe. We were talking about the new Mary Poppins earlier, so cautiously interested in that. Let's see, I'm just glancing at what's coming out in the next couple of weeks. There's a new Michael Moore documentary coming out. Oh, The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Maybe. I don't love Jack Black, but I do love... Wait, who's the other lady in there? It's not Emma Stone. Well, whoever it is. Oh, this is interesting. There's a Gilda Radner documentary coming out. That's fantastic. If you guys aren't familiar with Gilda Radner, you should definitely check her out. She was on Saturday Night Live, and then she had a movie with Gene Wilder. She married Gene Wilder, did a movie or two with him that was not great. But she is just a super delightful, funny, wonderful woman. Let's see, who else have we got coming out soon? A lot of movies that I'm definitely not interested in. Something called Hellfest. Don't feel the need to see Hellfest. Oh, I didn't see 8th Grade, but that looked very sweet. Let's see. Domain looks like something scary. Scaffolding, hard to tell what that's about. Oh, of course, the Venom movie, the sexy Venom goo movie. Looking forward to getting excited by that one. It's a movie where a man discovers his latent goo fetish and has a vor adventure with an alien. So definitely looking forward to Venom. Let's see. Luda says, people always love borrowing neurodivergent traits and issues, but never like having actual neurodivergent people. That's a good point. I mean, it's a whole thing like that reminds me of when they make a movie about a trans character, but they don't cast trans people. You know, have the whole entirety of the neurodivergent experience, which is why I think I've forgotten her name, but there's a autistic Muppet on Sesame Street now, or I guess an autistic character on Sesame Street now, that they seem to have done a really nice job with. Kevin Clark says, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Dallas Buyers Club. Oh, speaking of which, Jared Leto's performance. So it's been a while since I saw it, and I didn't see the whole thing. I feel really broken up about it. On one hand, I think it's really, really good that it brought attention to the queer experience. On the other hand, it sure would have been nice if it was a queer actor. On the other hand, nobody would have seen it if it wasn't Jared Leto. So I don't know. I feel really split about it. Let's see. Wait, it's on Netflix, says Laura. Huge fan of police procedural and hospital shows. Night Shift. Oh, interesting. LGBT characters on that. Night Shift. I'm writing that down. It's on Netflix, huh? I'll check that out. Luda says, why did Brent Spiner age, but Picard didn't? I know, it's weird. Well, I guess he's just like Angela Lansbury. He was just always old. Deep in the middle of LGBTQ doing research on hate crimes. And I want, oh no, Libby. Do take some time for yourself, step away, have a little mental health break where you're not reading about sad stuff. That's an important part of the research process, is not letting it overwhelm you and take over your life. Karen says, have you seen Love, Simon? Not yet. I tried to watch, oh dear, what's the name of it? Not Alex Hamburger. Alex Strangelove. Tried to watch Alex Strangelove, had to turn it off, just was not working for me. Oh, I found it really bad. John says, I want to see a modern interpretation of Music Man. Ooh, so Matthew Broderick did one with Kristen Chenoweth maybe like 15 years ago. But it wasn't set in like modern day, so maybe that's what it needed. Frankenstein and Music Man both due for reboots in the Trump era. Says Andid. Or Andy D. I'm thinking about what that would look like. At the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, they're doing a gay-centric version of Oklahoma. What? Dude, Jeff? Oh my God, nobody told me. Alert the media. What? That sounds incredible. Oh. Wow. Wow. Luna says the thing about the autistic Muppet is that, like, almost all the good autistic stuff is for children. Smarter choice would have been an autistic puppeteer. Yeah, that's a good point. That there's a lot of stuff for kids, not so much for adults. Like, I think adults, particularly, like, I don't know, maybe this is different for people who are younger than me, but like adults of my age, I think are just totally unprepared for interactions that are neurodivergent. You know, it's honestly, that's like some baggage that I think we came up with in media, that I like thinking back to like 80s and 90s. If someone was like nerdy or they became focused, I mean, we're just talking about like Asperger's now, but like if somebody was just like socially awkward, being socially awkward was like the worst thing you could be. And it was like, oh, avoid the socially awkward at all costs. It was a really, what's the opposite of compassionate? Discompassionate time. So, yeah, I feel like adults that are my age, like in their 30s, late 30s, have been kind of trained to be unpleasant to the autistic. I want to see a remake of Oklahoma, says Max Bader. Me too. Andy D or Andid says, paste Trump's head on Frankenstein or Harold Hill complete. Reboot complete. I guess. I just don't want a redemption story for a character like that. Lorenz says, always old like Angela Lansbury, fighting words. I mean, here's the thing, is she was always old. Always. Like, look at her in Manchurian Candidate. She was like, I think 2 years older than or maybe even younger than the actor who was supposed to be her son. She just always had an air of maturity. Let's put it that way. Nuna Jeff says, friends saw Oklahoma and raved. Oh man, that sounds great. Max Bader says, I recently saw an incredible Russian-Israeli production of Macbeth without any words. What? It sounds strange, but I was blown away. It's called Macbeth Without Words. Wow. What do they do? Like, is it gestures? Is it looks? Is it costumes? How do they tell the story of Macbeth without words, and how long is it? Emily says, did you see Randy a Rainbow spoofing Oklahoma? I did not. Nicholas Kress is now on Netflix's Atypical, fantastic depiction of autistic young adults, very highly recommended. Oh, season 2 just came out and introduced a wider array of characters with varied attributes. Okay, I saw it like advertised to me, and I think I was confusing it with something else, because there is something else on Netflix, a series that just came out that's kind of like, I've seen a lot of people complaining about how it's like kind of fat shamey, and so I definitely don't want to see that. But Atypical, huh? Yeah, like, what's queer on Netflix these days that you recommend? Because it's always changing. Maybe not the last one, but a couple live streams ago, we talked about Nanette a whole bunch. Oh, I just spilled some tea. Help. James, do you have a wipey? I'm sorry. I just got some tea on me. I was so excited about Nanette. Anyway, I have an article up on Slate about Nanette. No, it's on Into about Nanette. And about how important it is and about how interesting the message is. I interviewed Guy Branum and a bunch of other queer comedians about like how it affected them to see, and if they're going to be quitting comedy. Spoiler alert, they're not. Nobody's quitting comedy. Not even Hannah Gadsby is quitting comedy. Wipey, wipey, wipey. Wipey, wipey, wipey. Thank you, James. You now have an Earl Grey chair. I'll be right back. It's on the ground, too. Okay, all better. Oh, Insatiable, says Lorenz. Yes, that's the fat shaming one. Yes. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Just going back up through the chat. There we go. I'm autistic. My goodest of dudes. Do not tell me what autism is. This is Ludo. Wish me luck on this date to see Kathy. It's date number 4. Hoping to finally have at least our first kiss. Oh, definitely tell her that. She won't find that creepy at all. No, that's probably not. No, she would like that. She would like that. There's some performers who'd be like, ugh. Yes, Alex Payton recommends Atypical. High energy dance. Wait, what is a high energy dance performance? Max Bader says high energy dance performance, but what is it? The Macbeth is a high energy dance performance? Homoerotic? An hour and a half long? This I gotta see. Nicholas Kress says, Season 2 of Atypical introduced the sister character. As being newly gay or bi. Feels a bit tacked on to add drama, but I like enough to see where Season 3 goes. Simon is a lot better. At least the book is incredible. The book is better. It's always the case. Almost. I've not seen the movie. Adorable and sweet and cute. Is absolutely a... absolutely YA romance? Like young adult romance? Aaron says, anyone read the book then see the movie? Well, yes, there you go. Is the book a recommended read after seeing the movie? Sounds like it is. From Libby. I'm 2 episodes away from finishing season 2, but oh my god, that is a relief, says Alex. I've been screaming at my TV. She's gay bi for the entire time watching it. Okay, so I gotta see this. Tyler says, when you did the story on the furry convention, did you get to try on a fursuit? If so, how was it? I did not. I have a tail, which is... Oh, it's on the bookcase behind me. So I got to make a tail at the furry convention, but I didn't, like, a whole suit is a big deal. Expensive, and also usually very sweaty from the person who is inside of it, so I don't know that I would want to get into somebody else's fursuit. But also, that having been said, it just seemed like it would be really, really fun. It would be really, really fun. So, I wouldn't rule it out that one day it might happen. Emily says, I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show in your former hometown of Southington. Really? Emily, what were you doing in Southington? And why was there a screening of Rocky Horror in Southington? That's shocking. I'm literally flabbergasted that you happen to go to Southington to see Rocky Horror Picture Show. Where? Was it at the movie theater? There's a big movie theater out by the truck stop by the freeway. Is that where it was? I think there's only one, at least when I was growing up there 20 years ago, there was only one movie theater. Oh, I just realized it's, just missed my 20-year high school reunion. Nobody told me about it, so it's not my fault. What else is about to come out? Goosebumps 2, which is not exciting to me. I have enough Goosebumps. Thank you. Oh, Can You Ever Forgive Me? I am excited about that. That looks like it might be very, very good. So it's got, oh shoot, I've forgotten her name. What's her name? Melissa McCarthy. As a writer who starts forging letters, and then gets in like too deep way over her head. So it looks like it might actually be really good. And then, I don't know what this is. Oh no, it's got 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. An Evening with Beverly Loughlin. It's got really beautiful poster art, but a 27% does not bode well. Let's see. Johnny English. Great Johnny English sequel. The Nutcracker in the Four Realms just looks like a screensaver. Wait, they're doing another The Grinch? There's another The Grinch coming out. So that's great. Sure. Postcards from... Yeah, there's a lot coming out that I'm just like... Another Fantastic Beasts coming out, which I don't think I want to see because the... I've had enough. I've had enough, frankly. Have we all? Oh, and Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse. Oh, is that the animated one? Yeah, yes. Yes. The animation on that looks absolutely amazing. So I am interested in that. It looks like that's coming out in December. Dylan Minette says, Nudnik Jeff. Wait, who's Dylan Minette? Animated Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch plays the Grinch. I just don't need it. Here's the thing, is who needs that? There's already the perfect How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Why do another The Grinch? Like, we've got a Jim Carrey version that's horrifying. And now I guess we're doing a third one? Like, I feel like they're just like, let's take something good and make it not as good. I mean, it reminds me of the Herbert Birdsfoot rule. Herbert Birdsfoot, a character obscure on Sesame Street. He's playing some sort of like, I can't remember what it is. He's playing a game with Bert. And the game escalates at one point, and Herbert Birdsfoot says, maybe if we make the game more complicated, it would be fun. And I feel like that's often the approach with games and movies and shows and books and stories. And maybe if we make it more complicated, it'll be fun. No, it almost never is. Making it more complicated is almost never more fun. Oh, well, that music certainly filled a gap. Tomer says, I'm watching Can You Ever Forgive Me next month, written by Nicole Holofencer, who I love. Holofcener? Holofencer. That's a holodeck character. No, wait. Holofcener? Spider-Man and Deadpool flirt quite a bit in the comics, and in my head. They're magically confirmed to be like soulmates. Ooh, really? Well. All right, this music is too much. Hold on, I'm turning it down for me. Let me know if it's too much for you guys. We didn't even get to talk about the stuff that I wanted to talk about this week, which is totally fine. Real briefly, I did ask you for some recommendations for bad gay movies. I'm also going to be interviewing Adam Coble next week for Sewers of Paris, so let me know if there are any questions you want me to ask a dandy, pink-haired dungeon master, game designer. I saw him do a talk at PAX, the Penny Arcade Expo here in Seattle. That was very good, so I'm looking forward to having a chat with him. Stephanie says, 5th edition D&D is less complicated and much better. I would agree with that. Like, I don't know the other editions very well, but from what I've seen of them, I really like how D&D 5th edition makes it very easy to tell a story. Which is what I'm looking for in a Dungeon and Dragon. Luda says, I'd recommend VTM for higher RP value. Wait, what's VTM? Very Tomato Man for higher roleplay value. VTM? Hall of Saner. VTM. Voom. Take me. Oh, Vampire the Masquerade. Of course. James, you did quite a bit of Vampire the Masquerade in your youth, didn't you? A little bit, he says. So the Adam Coble interview coming up. I'm going to be seeing Throwing Shade very soon, starring the delightful Bryan Safi. They're on tour, coming to Seattle on September 27th. I'm going to be going to see their show, Bryan and Aaron. And what else? Oh, and the other thing that I had prepared to talk about was Great British Bake Off gays. But we will talk about that some other time, because it is time to loop in Bryan Lowder. Let's see if I can make this work. Bryan Lowder, there he is. Message disabled until request is accepted. Well, resend that contact. Hi. So let's get this going. I'm going to turn this music down altogether because it's going to get in the way. Oh, but I can't find what's playing the music. Where's it coming from? Here it is. Okay. There we go. Music is gone. Va-va-va-voom is the best guess as to what V could be in an acronym. Yeah, it's probably the worst possible guess. No, it's Va-va-va-voom the Masquerade. That's what it stands for. Okay, so I'm just letting Bryan know that I'm ready for him. Ready when you are. Just sent you a request. So yes, Emily used to live in Plainville. Oh, well, that's practically Southington. And also, like, the most suburban name possible for a place that is boring for kids to grow up, Plainville. Like, it sounds like if you put that in something, you'd be like, well, that's a little heavy-handed. Oh, here he comes. He just shared his contact info. Oh, here he comes. Let's see. Hey. Yes, I can't message you, Bryan, until you accept my contact request, though. Here we go. Hi. So let's bring him in. All right. So you're going to be able to hear him, and then you'll be able to see him. Hello. Oh, so good to see you. So I'm going to bring you into the chat. Here we go. Here he is. So let me know, folks, if you need any adjustment in the audio, if anybody's too loud or too quiet. But Bryan Lowder, everybody, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun.
Lovely to see you. And because of the framing, it looks like you're sitting underneath the butt.
That is an Almodovar movie poster, actually.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it's her bust, I think, is what we would say.
Yes. Delightful. So, hi, thanks so much. Tell the folks, for folks who aren't familiar with your work, tell folks what you do and where they can find you.
Sure. So I am an editor at Slate. I am, among other things, I'm the editor of our LGBTQ sort of platform, which is called Outward. Mm-hmm. And that is the tech side. And now also we have a podcast. So I'm a co-host on that, which just started last month. And so you can find my writing on Slate. You can find my editing, which you wouldn't know it was me, but you can find it on Slate, and as well as the podcast.
Fantastic. Yes. So everybody, if you're not listening to the Outward podcast, just launched fabulous queer discussions about topics of importance to queer people of our times. Highly recommended. So you have quite a few things. Like I asked you, like, oh, what can we talk about? And you had a lot of ideas, and I'm eager to talk about all of them.
Oh gosh. Okay, great.
So let's see. There was American Horror Story was like first on your list.
Yeah. Well, that just started this week, or came back rather this week. And I don't know about other folks, but I was not super into last season. In fact, I think I stopped watching halfway through, somewhere like that. Mm-hmm. And so this one for me was a real like, okay, is this show still worth tuning in for? Because it in the past I've loved it, but right. Just got really boring last season. Based on one episode, I would say that it is very much back, and that is because they've really gone full camp. Last season was a little more topical and sort of serious and gritty. This one seems to be just completely off the wall, campy. I mean, there was, I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that the world ends in the first episode.
Okay.
And the survivors, including Joan Collins, retreat into like an underground Victorian bunker, and it's pretty fantastic
That
so far.
Trapped in a bunker with Joan Collins does sound like Apocalypse or Trapped with Joan Collins. Like I'm like weighing my options here.
Yeah, I mean, it was very clear that what the tone was going to be when the first scene that she's in, she says the famous burn champagne line from Dynasty.
Really?
Yeah. Not it's slightly reworded, but yes, it's referencing that scene, the classic Shade Fest.
Oh my gosh.
And so yes, that's very much happening. Evan Peters is her, I think, grandson, if I caught it properly. And he's like a super Paul Lindy kind of gay hairstylist. It's just like every piece is there, and everybody's saying ridiculous things all the time.
So a lot of enthusiasm in the chat from I'm the Mighty Jeffers for Joan Collins. And Andy D, or Andid, says, I dropped off at Freak Show, but I hear Jessica Lange is back.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, not in the first episode so far, but yes, that is the word. And that is so funny to me because she made such a production of being like that she was done with it when whatever her last season was, I forget. And she had sort of moved on from American Horror Story, but it seems like she's couldn't stay away. So I'm excited to see that.
So this is absurd, but the most recent thing that I saw Joan Collins in was the Flintstones 2, The Flintstones Take Las Vegas, or Viva Rock Vegas.
Oh wow!
She is from the first movie, she plays the same character as Elizabeth Taylor. So if you're doing like a lower budget version of a film that Elizabeth Taylor was in, Joan Collins seems like the place you would go.
Yeah.
So American Horror Story, like it's just always been like very, very gay without being like explicitly gay, right?
In and out, I would say. I mean, there have been certainly. I mean, I think there's almost always a queer or gay character explicitly, but yes, the sensibility. I mean, it's Ryan Murphy, and like people have strong feelings about Ryan Murphy, which we can, I'm sure your viewers certainly do. I have always been a Murphy optimist because I think that even if he doesn't like the word camp, which he's actually on the record, I think in the New Yorker he said that he hates being called like campy and prefers, I think, Baroque was the term.
All right, calm down.
Yeah, I know exactly. I was like, girl, like relax. But even so, I think he actually channels that sensibility, or at least one version of it, better than any other. Sort of mainstream person who has access to mainstream platforms at this moment. He's really, it feels often for me watching his stuff, it feels like he's like tricked everyone into letting him do this really queer thing on like primetime. So I've always been a bit of a fan just for that, even if the individual efforts don't always measure up in quite the same ways.
There's a line like late in the run of Glee where I can't remember who comes out and under what circumstances, but something queer happens, and Jane Lynch's character says something like, just when I thought I heard every gay storyline there was.
Yeah, so I have a confession. Part of maybe why I'm still a Murphy optimist is that I didn't ever watch Glee. It felt too literal to me, actually, if that makes sense. And so I've avoided that, and I think perhaps that has saved me from being soured on him a bit, because I understand from many friends that show kind of really made it difficult for them to connect with him. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is a fine show. Often my recommendation for Glee is like watch the first half of the first season, and that's like a very complete work. And then, because it was going to be a feature film, and that was going to be it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And then they get there, and then like, I guess we got to keep going.
Interesting. Okay.
There's bright points here and there.
I should go back and do that then to be more complete in my reading, so to speak.
Libby's Journal says hello to Bryan.
Hello.
And a question from Ludo asks about why there is so much sexual assault on American Horror Story, and Terry suggests that it's because of the connection between horror and sex.
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know that I have like a great answer. I think that and I don't even know if I would defend it. Like I'm sure there are criticisms certainly of portraying that kind of thing that are very valid. But I think within the larger sensibility of the show, I don't know how. I don't want to say it gives it an excuse, but it does make it mean differently for me as a viewer. And it's not to say that I've not been uncomfortable. I mean, there's been many moments, and especially American Horror Story, that have made me uncomfortable. But I think that's kind of the representative space that show is working in. And so I don't know. Again, that's not like a defense. It's just as a one viewer, I sort of give it a bit of a pass for the stylized way that it's trying to like make it tell its stories.
Sure. Tyler Green says, correctly, Matt, I thought you didn't like scary movies and shows. Here's the thing. I am very easily frightened. So often scary movies and shows have a magnified and amplified effect on me.
Okay.
However, I recognize that for a lot of queer people are deeply invested in horror and fear. And so I want to I make myself open to that so that I'm not closing myself off to part of the queer experience. But what is that? It's something that I've always wondered about, is like, what is that connection? Like, why do queer people in particular seem to have a strong connection to horror?
That's like a dissertation topic. Yeah. I mean, I think off the top of my head, I think I would say that we have historically been sort of viewed as horrific ourselves, whether that is like aberrant almost in the way of like a monster, right? In a sort of almost scientific or pathological sense, or just frightening to the sort of hetero mainstream view of society, right? So we exist on the margins, we're a threat. I mean, you know, all the narratives of like queer people is like stealing your children, right? That is all very much in the language of horror, I think. And so it makes sense to me that we would be, or many of us would be, attracted to then those same sort of tropes manifested in other, you know, in fantasy and fiction. Because, you know, I think we're sort of a piece with it, at least symbolically. Even if, you know, certainly I don't think we're monstrous, but I think plenty of people do, and so it makes sense that we would feel an affiliation maybe with that genre more than others.
You know, you said like it's a whole dissertation topic, and as you're talking about it, it kind of occurs to me that that dissertation may already have been written, and it is James Whale's Frankenstein.
Ooh,
That, you know, here we are, this monster that has been made monstrous through the interference of I don't know. I'm spinning this as I go, so I don't know. But knowing that James Whale, the director of Frankenstein, the original black and white horror film, was himself family, and seeing like what he created there of like this hideous creature that is also sympathetic if you just give him a chance, I think that still might be the to me at least the most relatable queer-ish film monster I can think of.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something there. I was just at a Radical Fairy gathering recently, and part of it always is a play, and actually just a small part of that play was a reenactment of the Frankenstein story, and it had a lot of queer resonance in that space too. So yeah, I think you're totally onto something there.
Let's see. Luda says, HS never really condemns anyone. It's more or less a tale, a large amount of bad or neutral people having bad things happening to them. That's why it stresses me out so much.
Well, why does that stress you out? I heard you earlier in the chat in the last hour say something similar about I think it was Infinity War, that like you didn't like that bad things were. What do you think? Do you just need control at all times, Matt?
Of course, yes, yes. I'm a little nervous mammal. Of course, I need control at all times. Right. Yeah, that's just that's definitely like a fear trigger for me. Is like particularly. As a kid, I remember in E.T. when the spacemen invade their house at the end, like violating the sanctity of the home, and ending what control Elliot had. That super stressed me out as like a 9-year-old, and to this day I'm still like, oh yeah, E.T., that's a horror film.
That's amazing. I love that. Know what your viewer said, though. I think if one word that applies to AHS well, I think it's truly sort of amoral in a very like literal sense. Like it doesn't have usually, and I think it's better actually when it doesn't try to like have a kind of position about its characters. And so that makes it challenging in a lot of ways, but I think interesting too sometimes.
Yeah, and Andy D or Andid, you got to tell me how to pronounce your name. Says, I think horror is meant to prepare you for the worst, and queer people feel that they should prepare more. I think there's like a pessimism and a mindfulness that a lot of queer people have to have because of the perils of our environments. I think there's really there's something to that.
That's really smart. I love that. I think, because I think we're always, I mean, not always, but like, I think to be queer is to have to think about, will I be attacked, like for dressing the way I want to, or expressing my gender identity the way I want to, or whatever it may be. I think it's most of us, weekly, if not daily, think about that, like a sort of a worst case scenario, and maybe adjust our behavior. I mean, one of the interesting things we published in Slate recently was this series about passing, where we had like 20 different writers write different pieces about that experience of wanting to pass or not passing, or sort of across the board. And I think that within that topic very much is exactly what your viewer was talking about, is a sort of common experience of having to imagine what might happen to you if you don't blend in the way that you're sort of supposed to.
Right, yeah. We're always sort of looking. We're always sort of like looking in the mirror to be like, am I doing something that sticks out? Whether like literally or just like in our conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
Terry says there's also the fear of being exposed. Having fear in a controlled situation can help you deal, like in BDSM. Yeah, ooh. I think that's interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah, the comparison of horror to BDSM. And the amount of control and the presence of a safe word in both situations. Yeah,
it's like a stylized enactment, or a processing almost of that, possibly. Yeah, that's interesting.
And Libby's journal brings up an interesting point. Remember, Mary Shelley was very good personal friends with Lord Byron. So I wonder how much of him is in that story.
Very good question. I'm sure there are some dissertations about that. I'm sure we could go pull them if we wanted to. Yeah, absolutely.
Emily Charette and Karen both ask, how do you feel about Silence of the Lambs?
How do I feel about Silence of the Lambs? So I haven't seen that in quite a while, but I do generally. So one of my partners got me into Hannibal, which was the more recent series on I forget what network, NBC, I guess it was. And I loved that. I think it's in many ways actually akin to American Horror Story, and it's kind of non-judgmental amorality. Like, he's that character there, Hannibal there is, very, I think always, but in particular in this representation, like just the most alluring person you could imagine, like especially if you have certain pretensions about music and art and food and all of that kind of thing. He there is just so seductive, and yet is a horrible murderer. So I think that show very much, and then the movie as well, are on the same sort of subgenre that we're talking about. Yeah,
that's interesting. So it's been a while since I've seen Silence of the Lambs as well. I remember it having what I would call a problematic handling of like the trope of the gender.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the villain. But that having been said, I'm really interested in what you're saying about like the amorality of the work itself. That it doesn't really take a stance. And often I can see that, like, that makes me feel like frustrated sometimes with the piece, because I'm like, just decide, is this good or bad? It's up to you, media, to tell us what you think. But then again, sometimes leaving space for the audience is not necessarily a bad thing.
I think we want both, right? Like, I as much as anybody, I enjoy a
polemic,
sort of clear, polemic, or sort of a morally clear, the bad guy either wins or the bad guy loses, like kind of and in fact, in Infinity Wars, it's interesting. I actually liked the ending of that just because I was one of those kids who always wanted the villain to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so given that I forget that, what's his name?
Thanos.
Thanos, right? Given that he does it, like he does the plan.
Mm-hmm.
That actually was very satisfying to me. Weirdly, I don't know what that says about my psychology, but yeah. But no, I think that having the occasional, unsettled or kind of open-ended or amoral thing is a useful kind of art to engage with too.
Ludo says, I feel like the act of not taking a stance is actually taking a stance anyway, which is very true. When someone says like, well, let's not get political, that is itself a very political thing to say.
Very true. Yeah, I would not argue with that.
Something that's happening a lot in the furry fandom these days. Of people like keep politics out of the furry fandom, and people are like, well, that's easy for you to say if you're straight.
Oh, that's interesting. Man. Yeah, interesting.
Now, like, completely changing threads.
Great.
You were recently at a marching band event.
I wasn't at it, but
okay.
I watched it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've been immersing yourself in marching band.
Okay, so here's the thing. I was, and I guess always will be, a band geek. Like that was my identity in like middle school and high school in South Carolina, where I grew up. And
what did you play?
So I was a percussionist, but I was the gay version of that, which is a front ensemble or pit member, which is, for those that don't know, marching band, it's the all of like the mallet instruments and percussion instruments that are too big to march with. So basically everything but drums. And so I would be playing marimbas and xylophones and vibraphones and glockenspiel and cymbals and like all of that stuff. And something we could maybe talk about is like how that particular section attracts queer people. Like all the gays that I knew, not out yet, including myself at the time, but who came out later, were in like that section. So it's definitely that. But no, the thing that I mentioned to you was the Drum Corps International finals. Are you familiar with Drum Corps International at all?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, good. Okay, that's fine. So there is a semi-professional organization called Drum Corps International that consists of like dozens. I don't know exactly how many corps there are, but dozens of marching bands, also called drum corps, around the country, and they compete in competitions, sort of, I think, starting in May, basically through August, and the final is in August. And it is a big deal. It used to be actually broadcast on ESPN as like a sport show, but now it's simulcast in theaters, and you can watch it online. And that's how I engaged with it. But it is like the most intense sort of athletic arts thing that you and no one has ever heard of. So I'm not surprised that you haven't. But it is it's basically folks from usually like 16, 17 would be the earliest through 22 who apply, audition, get into these corps, learn something like 12-minute show, which is full of like classical music and new music and original music and just everything usually around some sort of theme. And it's got color guards, so you've got like flags and rifles and sabers and all of that happening. It's got the musicians, scenery. Every show is very different, but all of that is put together and performed on a football field for usually very small audiences. And it is the most, so much effort goes into this performance, and then it kind of evanesces and it's like never heard from again. So I'm a little bit obsessed with it as a former band member, and now like writer. I think it is I'm pretty convinced that it is like a queer art form. It attracts a lot of queer folks, and it is also queer, not to give like my thesis away, but I think it is queer insofar as a lot of queer art is a lot of intense effort for a very ephemeral, like site-specific result. So if you think about drag, drag is, I think, very much that way in many cases. It is all of this effort for like a 5-minute number in a bar at 2 a.m. that then no one sees again, and the face is gone, within hours. So that is a sort of queer art form theme that I'm interested in. And I think in marching band and in drum corps in particular, it is manifest.
This is like how queer people are the ones who made Burning Man.
Yes. Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah. That's right.
That is fascinating. And I'm also feeling very called out because I literally just went to a concert 2 nights ago at so it's this Distant Worlds thing where it's the Seattle Symphony, it's a traveling thing, but Seattle Symphony here, and a chorus singing and performing songs from Final Fantasy. And,
nice. Okay.
Watching this giant concert, Seattle Symphony was just named the top symphony in the country.
They're wonderful. Yeah, they're great.
So I'm like watching the percussionist way in the back with like the giant bells and the xylophone, and I'm like, that looks like fun. And
so much fun.
So I don't know why, like something about like what you're saying, like queer people seem drawn to that. But yeah, like they're sitting in my seat. I was like, oh, that's the guy I think I would want to be up on stage.
Yeah. Percussion is definitely the coolest thing in like middle school. Like I remember when I was auditioning, everybody wanted to be a percussionist, but usually the people that got to sort of selected to do it, you had to be able to tap your foot and do the alternate beat at the same time, which is surprisingly hard. And also I had a little piano training already, so I could the keyboards on the marimba and xylophone and stuff are the same as a piano, and so if you know that, you can pretty easily learn it. So
we've had some requests from Charles D and Brianna W to talk about Blast, the onstage drum bugle corps from the early 2000s. I don't know anything about this, so tell me about it.
You should look it up. It's great. There's a lot of it on YouTube for sure. Yes, it was this sort of, I guess I'd put it in the same category as like a Blue Man Group kind of show, like a Broadway thing that traveled around. I don't know if they might know, was it on Broadway, like proper? I'm not sure about that, but it came through. I went and saw it in South Carolina as a high schooler for sure, in Greenville. And yeah, it's like, it is essentially a drum corps, or selections from drum corps shows that have been adapted for a stage performance. But they're marching, like they have choreography, they have color guard stuff. And then as I recall, the setting or like the scenery was sort of this big Hollywood Squares looking grid, and a lot of the percussion, like the pit folks were like in each of those squares playing.
Okay.
And yeah, I still tear up. Occasionally I'll listen to a performance from that of Simple Gifts in Appalachian Spring, which is classic marching band material from Copeland. And they sing actually the sort of hymn version of Simple Gifts and then go into the marching arrangement of it. And it's quite something. Officer Krupke is in that. There's a great version from West Side Story. Yeah, you should. That's maybe where you should start. It's great. It's very funny. I forget what else. There's a lot of different things in that. Bolero, I think, is in it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. This shows you the breadth of the material, right? Like in marching band, like there's such a like weird dissonance because like when you are like in high school doing it, and so there are some schools will have bands that only do like pep music for like, just for the purpose of the football team or whatever. But if you have like an arts inclined one, you'll go in the middle of the football game, the Friday night football game in South Carolina, and suddenly be playing Tchaikovsky like on the field. And so it in that way too, it's kind of this weird, like a little bit queer, like invasion of like super hetero spaces, I think. And yeah, to imagine all of these, sort of baby queers like doing their flag dances and xylophone playing.
I like
in the middle,
that.
In the middle of the football field. Yeah.
We tricked you.
Yeah, we tricked them. No, and they, and oddly enough, like a lot of the schools that have those programs are just as supportive. It's not, it's like they love it. They see it as something about maybe being on the football field makes it make sense to folks in a way that it wouldn't in a concert hall, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe because we're marching and moving and it looks kind of sporty that way. But yeah, I'm a band geek through and through for all of those reasons.
A lot of folks in the chat as well. Ludograve says that I hated marching band. I was bad at it, and it was hot and sweaty. Ludo played clarinet.
Nice.
Munich Jeff says, my husband was in marching band in high school, played the sax. And also asks, are there ever any violins, or are there any stringed instruments in a marching band?
So this is interesting. Great question. So historically, let me see. Let me make sure I have the history right. Historically, you would actually, you may or may not even have woodwind. So it would be brass for sure, and drums, and then woodwinds are often there but don't always show up. Strings rarely, and I would say actually there was in drum corps, the sort of organization I was talking about, they had a big controversy maybe over a decade ago now. I'd have to look up the exact date, but when they were trying to allow for, some people wanted to allow for amplified instruments in the pit. Which was a big controversy because some people thought, it should only be acoustic, like only the sound that you can make by hitting and blowing and scraping. That's all that should be allowed. And other people thought it would expand the possibilities of the art to allow for other things like violins that would then be amplified. You would never hear a violin from like a football field if it was just that.
Right.
But like an electric violin or or even an acoustic one, I guess, amplified, would work, and they did approve that. And so yeah, you'll hear those in shows sometimes now, for sure, in DCI at least. Yeah.
Oh, and
but
Richard,
it's not like a full section usually.
Richard,
not that I'm aware of.
Ian Tracy makes a good point about the difficulty when it comes to tuning strings and changing weather and humidity.
Yeah. That's for all the instruments, but strings in particular, I think. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, a
marimba will go flat on you if it's like cold out for sure. It's weird. Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's totally unrelated, but it does remind me of a consideration you need when doing photography or just like and video and multimedia about how batteries perform differently in the cold. So when you're shooting like out of doors in winter, you need to pack extra batteries.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So they go faster when it's cold.
Yeah, when it's cold. I don't know what the science of that is.
Is that true with like my iPhone too? I wonder.
I don't know.
Gosh.
This was at least the case 10 years ago when I was doing more outdoorsy stuff. I don't know. Maybe they've fixed that somehow.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. Huh.
Max says that my marching band was a bunch of agitators. They used to antagonize the football players by yelling out cues during the game.
Definitely some antipathy there usually. Yeah, for sure.
So like, would you recommend, like, are there when is the next big like televised marching band thing?
Yeah, so the season, like I say, the season sort of is over the summer, so the next DCI season wouldn't start until next year. But you can definitely go on. Do you have like a show page or something? I can give you some links if you want to like share them.
Yeah.
Afterward, but you can definitely go on YouTube and just like watch them. They do try. Sadly, like DCI tries to like make you subscribe to a weird platform to like watch it, but usually someone will put it up at least for a while for free. And so there are like the winning show from this year, which was the Santa Clara Vanguard Corps that won. There is a version of that. I think somebody taped it themselves up that you can watch and get a sense for what I'm talking about, if it makes no sense, because it is a very strange. I was actually just showing one of my partners back when this happened in August, and he had never heard of marching band, at all, and he said it was the weirdest like performative thing he's ever seen in his life. So I think it will be, if you're not familiar with it, it's definitely worth peeking out for a second. Yeah.
I remember when, this is pre-Glee, but in like 2006 or 7 or so, I discovered, this is a very late in life discovery, but I discovered show choir for the first time. Like somehow that just escaped me. And like I never knew that this was a thing.
2 doors down from the band room, yeah.
And yeah, so I was just obsessed for a while with show choir, and like, it's just a bunch of nerds singing like weird selections of songs, but very showy about it.
Very showy. Yeah, yeah. A funny story, and then we could leave marching band if you want. But so I wasn't out in high school. I didn't really, not even really to myself. I wasn't sort of self-aware enough to be. But other people had a sense because when we did a show that was themed around winter, so we did Tchaikovsky's First Symphony, I think, which is sort of about winter, and like a John Adams piece. But anyway, it's about winter, and I was like, well, if it's about winter, we definitely need to have like fake snow like on our instruments, like in the front ensemble, and we should absolutely put like glitter in our hair so that we look like ice crystals. And we should definitely get like snowflake stickers to put on our like drum heads, because why wouldn't we communicate the theme in any way that we could? And so I had my mom take me to like Michael's craft store to get like all of the snow glitter shit that they had. But I wasn't gay, not at all, not a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, this reminds me very much of that one scene in Tu Wong Fu where they're figuring out the theme for like the Strawberry Festival.
Yeah.
Your theme is red and wild.
Exactly. Very much like that.
Oh, that's really lovely. Okay, so we're gonna check out some marching band stuff. If you send me the links, I'll put it on the Sewers of Paris Twitter. So
for sure,
folks can check out the Sewers of Paris Twitter at Sewers of Paris to find links to that.
Yeah,
and now you also have been. You were just telling me about Stargate. That's become a part of your life. So this is again switching genres significantly.
Yeah, yeah. So this only came up because I have been subjecting one of my partners to Stargate, the show, not the movie, recently. This episode of your show has really taken me to like high school Bryan's experience, like marching band and Stargate.
So you would have seen the movie, the James Spader.
Yeah, I saw the movie like when it came out, and then the TV show starts like a few years. I think maybe that was like 93. Fact check me on that, but I think the movie was like in the early 90s, and then the show starts in like 97, and goes for like 1,000 seasons and has I think 2 different spin-offs, if not more, Atlantis and Universe, I think, and then like 2 TV movies. It was like a whole thing. But what to say about Stargate? I love it. I think it's like one of the best, most sort of complete sci-fi narrative universes ever created, and dipping back into it recently with sort of through my Tristan's eyes has just reminded me how great it was. Like it stands up to me completely. I mean, the tone of it is definitely that 90s sort of X-Files, like somewhat self-aware and like occasionally comedic tone, if you know what I mean. It's not gritty at all. It's like very, at least the first season or first series is not, but and that was kind of nice to be back in. That
got some pulp.
Yeah, and a little, especially as it goes on, they'll just have the total joke episodes,
Gotcha.
But it's very much not taking itself too seriously. But it's also like beautifully made. The CGI for, I guess that's what you would call it then still, is decent, and the world creation is pretty good. The only thing that doesn't stand up for me now, and this is maybe like a sort of, at Slate we have this series called Pre-Woke Watching, where you talk about something you watched in the past and realize that it's a bit problematic now. Yeah. It is like the worst version of like anthropology possible, in the sense of like people show up. The conceit, for those that don't know it, is very much Ancient Aliens, right? So like there's many races of aliens, but there's one that seeded various planets in the galaxy with humans as slaves, and each of the planets that the team visits in the first season are like sort of a different Earth culture. So there's like the ancient Greeks and like ancient China and ancient like Norse folks, but when they visit them, and of course this is like 2,000 years later because the show's in the present, they're still the same, like as if they hadn't evolved at all, like frozen in time. Like their cultures look exactly the same, which I am told by my partner, who is an anthropologist, is one of the like sins of anthropology. It was like imagining that if you went to Papua New Guinea, like that those people were somehow in the past, and like we were Westerners were in the present. And so the show definitely partakes in that fallacy. So, if you go back and watch it, don't be surprised by that, because it definitely does.
Terry Weaver says, I love Stargate 1. Daniel is hot.
Yeah, so hot. Oh my God.
Okay. Well, okay. That alone has sold me.
Yeah.
And Max,
And it's so funny how they chose him to be James Spader's like replacement. Mm-hmm. You'll see, like, when you see the guy, Michael Shanks, I think is his name. Mm-hmm. He like is as close to Spader as they could get for TV. Mm-hmm. It's the same character, so that's funny. Yeah.
Max says, a friend of mine introduced me to Stargate by sending me a few YouTube videos. It's hilarious to see how the show can recognize its own flaws and make fun of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, I mean, and that's something that only I think is possible after like a season or two. Like X-Files had those, what's the one that I'm thinking of? James, you know the title. Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. My very favorite episode of the X-Files, where it's the one where Scully befriends a guy who can see how everyone will die.
Yes, I remember that one.
It's got Peter Boyle, I think, as the guy in that. And it's such a strange episode that like is constantly undermining itself and making my goodness, Jose Chung's From Outer Space, starring the guy who played Uncle Croc. James, I need help. He has 3 names. It's
we're playing that game.
Yeah, we're playing that game. No, I'm not going to remember. Charles Nelson Riley.
Okay.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like a great episode where it's like the whole episode is making fun of the X-Files, and like Alex Trebek shows up at one point to do something weird.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So,
Stargate definitely has that too. Yeah.
That's fascinating. How queer is it?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Because
that's a time, like that late 90s time for television is not, even in sci-fi, which is very frustrating with shows like Next Generation, that, it's the future where everything's going to be better. No gays allowed.
Yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head any explicitly queer characters. I do feel like if you wanted to do more of like a kind of, for lack of a better phrase, like queer theory reading, you could talk about, like, there's a whole narrative about ascension, where you like leave the body behind and become this kind of energy being that's like not gendered and is sort of freed from that kind of stuff. Maybe there's something in that. There's definitely a lot of like just watching this first season again, there's a lot of what I perceive to be lesbian tension between Carter, who's one of the main team members, and the Doctor on the base. I don't know if anybody remembers all those 2 characters, but they have a couple of like interactions that like feel a little freighted to me, and so I'm happy to read into that in that kind of way. But it is not explicit in the show itself, I don't think.
Sure. Well, I mean, sharing it with a partner queers it. That's
true. That's true.
Early in my relationship with James, we would watch a lot of Dragon Ball, and he would explain the complexities of Dragon Ball, and so that show, without having any actual content, still feels like super gay to me just because of how I saw it.
Well, I think that's how you know it's love, right? Like if somebody can sit through you geeking out about all the intricacies of a show like Stargate or Dragon Ball or anything, that means that there is something there, because otherwise it's I think insufferable. No, it is wonderful to have someone to do that with. No doubt about it.
Richard, along those lines, Richard Dean Tracy says, I have a nerd fetish, but I'm only so nerdy myself. I do love Star Trek Next Generation and Voyager. No interest in gaming. It's fine if you do. And he says, will I ever find the nerd for me? Well, I would say, Richard, there's probably someone out there saying, will I ever find the nerd for me, who's looking for someone who's nerdy about the things that you are nerdy about.
And Voyager's a great one to have. I love me some Voyager too. Yeah.
That's it. It's so frustrating because it's so hit or miss. Like there's some really beautiful moments and storylines, and of course 7 of 9 is so iconic. And then there's some bits of that show that are just like, well, they tried.
Well, I guess for me that one was the one that was on like concurrent with my adolescence, and so it just I think it's hard to separate that experience out from the quality of the show. You know, it was my first Star Trek, and then I went back and watched the other ones.
So speaking of Voyager and Kate Mulgrew, Emily Charette says, "Did any of you see Orange is the New Black?" So that is something that I've been saving up, and like I'm still saving up. Where I'm like, okay, I just need like my dedicated Orange is the New Black time to like make it through all of it. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I dropped off of that after like season. What are we in now? 5? I think 3. It just got to. I feel like it like sort of spent its material and was really stretching. The good thing about being in a triad relationship, as I am, though, is that you can sort of assign different TV to different people. And so that one of my partners does watch it, and so I, get the download on sort of what the gist of the season is from him. But I don't watch it myself. No.
That is an amazing quality that didn't even occur to me.
So it is a delegation, cultural delegation.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
For sure. Yeah.
John Newman says all sci-fi comes down to Rule 34. Yeah, I suppose that like there's something for everyone, and you can excite yourself about things that other people just don't see the appeal to. Yeah. Interesting. The show, let's see, I just lost here we go. Terry says, how many shuttles did they have in that ship? Are you talking about Enterprise or Voyager? Because I feel like Voyager had to be very canny about how many shuttles they were using at any time.
That's a good question.
I'm trying to remember. There was definitely an episode where they obtained a old Model T Ford or something that was floating in space.
Yeah.
But I can't quite recall like them being like having to make use of their... Oh, that's right, because Voyager could land on a planet. It could go into the atmosphere and have legs.
It could occasionally. Yeah, that's true. I don't remember that. I'm not sure. It's a good question.
Aspect of the show.
I'm sure, like most shows of that nature, things. If you went back and really tracked the equipment, things were invented as they needed to be invented.
Sure.
So there was a storage bay that just hadn't been opened.
We just crack it open.
Yeah.
So one of the other things, last thing that you mentioned you've been consuming lately is this book, The Parting Gift, which I know nothing about.
Okay, so this is a very different tone of thing, but actually, so on a plane last weekend from West Coast to back home to New York, I read this book in one sitting. It was fantastic, and here I'll show it. It's this.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
This beautiful cover, yeah. It's there, and then it's in the back.
Oh wow.
And so that actually tells you something about what the story is. So it's this, I guess you'd call it an epistolary novel. It's written in the form of a letter, one long letter, between the narrator and a friend. But the story is actually about the narrator's affair with a tumultuous affair with an Israeli spice merchant. And so that on the back, I think, is the title written out in like cinnamon or something. But it is beautiful. And it's also really disturbing. Like I won't spoil it, but it's a kind of a study in a psychology that you at first feel is you sort of identify with him and the lust he feels for this guy and all of the sort of heat of the beginning of the affair, and then it turns pretty dark in various ways. But by Evan Fallenberg, it's really great. It is a quick read, only because I don't think you can like stop reading it because it's that kind of book. But it's beautiful, and it has some extremely hot gay sex scenes that don't read as silly, which I think is pretty hard to do in novels. So if you're into that.
That's an interesting observation. I'm trying to think about so I think I am just so eager for gay sex scenes in novels that I'm like just willing to buy into whatever's going on. Like I can't think of anything that I've been like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think if you're reading erotica, then it's different. What I meant was like in sort of an otherwise proper literary novel. I think suddenly the change in tone to talking about dick or whatever, like that will be jarring for some reason that I can't quite articulate, but I think it often feels a little ham-fisted. But here, the way the author writes sex and sort of and desire in general just feels very true to a certain kind of infatuation, like chemical infatuation. I don't know if I mean, I'm sure folks who have sex have maybe had this once or twice. Like you just meet someone that just they like smell and like sweat, and you just kind of want to like connect with all of that. And that isn't always the case, but I think it happens sometimes. And that is very much the relationship between these two characters. And so I think writing it with that in mind actually makes it work better than just like, and then they had sex.
Sure.
Wouldn't work. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. That like, realness and interest, physical interest, reminds me of, it's like literally probably a second and a half long. But it's one of my favorite moments of queer cinema when it's the lick of the neck in My Beautiful Laundrette.
Yeah.
It's this really brief thing where these two characters are having a relationship, and one of them, they're both very secretive about it, and they're just having a conversation saying goodbye or something, and one of them is, his friends are standing off to the distance watching them, and he manages to, without his friends seeing, lick the other one's neck in this way that is so seductive and private.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Well, and it helps this author too that that the guy is the love object is a spice merchant, because then you get to describe him as smelling like a mix of clove and cumin and fresh thyme, because he's got all of these spices around him. So not only does he smell or taste or whatever good, but he tastes like those things too, which is pretty evocative.
That's lovely. I love that's the sensory, like whenever I'm occasionally I'll do some like copy editing for people, and I'm always very into like, well, if you have an opportunity to do any more sensory details, maybe some more sensory details wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah.
Do you have like, what is your favorite queer romance scene in anything?
Ooh, oh, that's a good question. Queer romance scene. I'm gonna okay. Does it have to be? Do you mean just sex scenes or like romance scenes?
You just be like the lingering gaze.
My favorite. I think I'll say this. One of my favorites at least is actually the relationship between the two characters in Vicious, the Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi show. I love that show, and I think actually if I had to pick a specific scene, I feel like in the last episode, they're like shown in bed together for the first time, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds familiar.
In there, because usually it takes place sort of in their living room, like a sitcom. But like I think in that last episode, they actually are in their bedroom for some reason, not having sex, but just sort of in their pajamas in bed together, but being very affectionate and like touching each other. And yeah, I think that was beautiful and lovely and true, and something, certainly given that it was older gay folks, something that you don't get to see enough of at all.
That is really sweet. Yeah. Nicholas Kress says The Wedding of Sapphire and Ruby, which is just a gorgeous piece of work. And Tomer says, I was friends in school with the son of the writer of My Beautiful Laundrette.
That's cool.
So yeah, there's a connection. Emily Charette says, did you see the film about Lily Elba? I'm not familiar with that. Starring Eddie Redmayne. No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, no. Is that the Danish girl?
Is that? Yeah. Okay. No, well, I haven't seen it.
I think so, yeah. I think that's, if I'm recalling the name correctly, I think that's right, yeah. I did see that that was like a few years ago now, but yeah.
And Max Mollerman asks if anyone's seen the Black Mirror episode San Junipero, which is the sci-fi one, right?
Yes. Yeah, you haven't seen that, Matt?
Well, here's the thing. I can't watch Black Mirror by myself, so...
Okay. Fair. Well, that episode is not scary, so you should...
Maybe I'll just skip to that one.
You can dip into that one, right? Yeah, that one is so good. Oh God, so lovely.
Did that win like an Emmy or something?
It probably did. Yeah, it should have. I mean, yeah, that is definitely one of the most beautiful queer stories, romance stories that I've ever seen. Yeah.
All right, it's going on the list.
Yeah, you should. You should.
And I'd have to say, like, when I asked you that question, it just like occurred to me, and I hadn't really thought through what my answer would be, and so I've been sort of like vamping and trying to think of something. Honestly, like, there's that lick of the neck, but then also these are both so fleeting and momentary, which I don't know, maybe that says something about me, but
I like that. I think that's hot. Yeah.
There's a moment in Dragon Age 3 where, depending on how you play through it, your character can romance this character, the Iron Bull, and you can, as many times as you want, you can play the scene over and over and over and over whenever you ask for it. Have a little makeout session back behind the tavern. It's a cutscene that's probably about 20 seconds long.
Love getting behind the tavern, always.
And just as it ends, the Iron Bull, like, he's walking away and he swats the player on the ass. And you see the player like give a little like jump and smile, and then once Bull is like walked away a little bit, the player's character like rubs their butt a little bit because it stings.
Yeah.
Everybody cites, like, with the Iron Bull has this like a full nudity scene where I don't think you see everything, but he's still naked. And there's a really funny scene where like a whole bunch of people like walk in on you and Bull having sex. It's tremendous and hysterical. But I think is that rubbing of the butt that actually...
Yeah, a little slap on the ass in the butt. That sounds hot. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
I think that might be where I go, because we have so few like little slice of life, like queer romance slice of life moments. It's either all or nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just not the full on sex, but like a little affection. Mm-hmm.
So I recently saw Tu Wong Fu and we had a conversation afterwards about comparing it to Priscilla, among other things, and how de-sexed the characters in Tu Wong Fu are. That like John Leguizamo has some attractions to a character, but never is anything physical whatsoever. Yeah,
it's true. No, I do like that movie, but that is very much of a certain style of film that de-sexes. Yeah, I think that's the only way that you could get it made. I mean, and probably in some ways was to make everybody feel safe. The straight people, I mean, feel safe. From
right. Yeah, they're not
scary.
coming for
the monstrous. Just bring us back around, like the monstrous queer sexuality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid of it unless you do, which also, like, to connect these things, the Iron Bull is basically a fantasy Klingon because he's this giant hulking muscle character with giant bull horns. So he is literally what you could, like, he looks demonic.
I love it. Yeah. That sounds hot. That's fine.
Charles D has an ass-stinging slap story from high school, but it's a long story. Well, Charles, I look forward to hearing that story. Do up a little post on Medium or something about that, because that sounds...
Please.
Yeah. And New Nick Jeff says Wong Fu is nowhere near Priscilla, which I certainly agree with that. If we're comparing comparing our favorites.
Yeah.
There's a video in there somewhere. Fabulous. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours for the stream and an hour with Bryan. Thank you so much for popping by and all these great recommendations.
This was so fun. I love this. This is the best. Yay. Yeah, thank you.
Once again, where can folks find you?
So I'm at Slate. If you just Google Slate Outward, you will find our landing page, and there will be the podcast there, all of our articles and special issues. And as I say, you can hear me on the podcast. My work right now is mostly editing, so my byline's not there so much. But yeah, definitely check out the podcast if y'all are into smart queer conversations, because we are excited about it and really hoping to build an audience and contribute to the queer conversation, as they say.
Yeah, now's the time to get on board with that podcast. You've got one episode. I think you've got another one coming out.
We have, the next one will be out on this coming Wednesday.
Great.
I think that's the 19th or something. 19th. And it is about, so each of our episodes is themed, and this month is about, it's called the Orientation Edition, and it's actually about how you learn to inhabit your queer identity. So sort of acculturation, maybe. So we're going to talk about how you learn, and if you want to learn and participate in sort of, something called gay culture, We have some trans folks talking about how they learned gender performance for their gender identities after transitioning. So lots of different takes on that sort of general theme of how do we learn to be queer. So it should be interesting.
That sounds great. Yeah, everybody go subscribe to Outward. Just coming in at the end, Siddharth Singh says, what do you think about Sense8, Nomi, and Amanita? We're going to talk about that. There's a lot to say about Sense8, but real quick, okay, good.
Loves it. Well, it's, I mean, as a now a sort of poly ID'd person, the end of that, not to spoil anything, but the end of that show, the movie that just came out in the summer, was very validating to a lot of us folks out here. So love, very much a fan of Sense8. I think it's like a sort of a narrative mess in many ways, but like in terms of just pure queer joy, it is invaluable, and I am very happy they made it. Yeah.
I was at a Pride parade last year, and someone was holding up a giant protest sign that said, "Bring back Sense8."
Yeah.
I'm glad. You know, it's not a show for me. Like, it didn't really resonate with me. At least the pilot didn't. But I know that it's important for a lot of queer folks.
It's so beautiful. I mean, it's absurd, but it's also beautiful. Like, if you can, it's both of those things at the same time. And so I think, you can sort of take it on its merits for that.
So thanks to everybody who joined us, and I hope you'll join us for the next live stream. It's going to be on the 29th, September 29th, same time and place, Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific. So we'll be chatting about, I'm just about lined up a guest for that one. No spoilers yet about until we lock it in, but excited to talk to see you guys back for that one. Big thanks to everybody who supports the live streams and the podcasting and the videos through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/MattBaum. And I think there's a link in the description for the video to become a patron for more videos like this. And of course, check out The Sewers of Paris, my podcast where I talk to queer folks about the entertainment that changed their lives. Bryan, we're going to get you on there very soon.
That'd be great. That'd be so fun.
So definitely want to have you. We'll have a Bryan Lowder episode coming up. And check out Queens of Adventure, the other podcast that I do featuring drag queens playing Dungeons and Dragons. So we've got an episode also coming out this coming Wednesday on the 19th. So listen to those back to back. Outward and Queens of Adventure.
That's great. That's a great double feature. Love it.
Perfect. Put them together. Awesome. So thanks again to everybody who joined. Thanks to Bryan for joining me. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays from now. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Cheers.